Alright, what's going on, Packers fans? This is Frank Nidiu with a final video on the 2018 Packers season and a final video of 2018 in general. But as we are now hours away from the new year, I realized that I have not made any videos about the Packers the last couple of months, and I'm going to tell you why. And that's simply because I had completely given up on the season. I know some might believe it's crazy to quit mid-season the way I did, but I just did. After Packers lost to the Rams in such an embarrassing way with the whole Tom Montgomery incident, it just told me the Packers weren't going anywhere, and I was completely right. The Packers just are not a complete team, and they constantly fail to come up big in these big games, and you saw it right there when that with that loss. So that just told me to just give up on the season, and for the most part, I was right. After that Rams game, the Packers went on to lose four out of the next five, and then the Mike McCarthy firing happened that I never gave thoughts about, but I will hear soon. But after the firing, the Packers finished 2-2, ending the season getting shut out at home against the Lions. So that there you go. Obviously, this has been a complete disappointment of a season by the Packers, even more so than last year, simply because Aaron Rodgers was there the whole time. He played in every game. Last year the main excuse was like, yeah, Rodgers is out, we have no chance, and for the most part that was a good excuse, because at the end of the day he is our star quarterback. But one of the biggest reasons why I was very happy to see Mike McCarthy go is the fact that a guy like Rodgers completely covered up a lot of his inefficiencies as a coach. And Mike McCarthy's play calling scheme did nothing to help a guy like Brett Hundley come in there and replace Rodgers. And you saw it. When Hundley came in, you just saw the how bad of a football team we really were and how badly coached we were. So overall, it still makes this, so obviously we weren't going anywhere with Brett Hundley at quarterback. And what just makes this season even worse is again we had Rodgers the whole entire year, and we still failed to make the playoffs for the second year in a row. So that obviously screams a ton of disappointment and a ton of changes that needs to happen for this football team to compete next season. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about all the pluses and minuses of this season. And this is going to be a pretty long video, so because I'm really trying to make up for a lot of lost time. So this video is going to be pretty lengthy. So grab some popcorn you haven't grabbed any, and just, hey, if you listen to this whole thing, I appreciate it. But let's start with the offense. One of the biggest failures this year in production is definitely production with the offense. The Packers offense has underperformed the entire season, never finding that spark it needed to win football games. I mean, how many times did we have to watch the Aaron Rodgers and the offense go out there, the game is tied, or maybe we're down the touchdown, whatever the case may be, and we've come up short? It's happened way too often. And the offense is constantly choked and not come up big in these big games. You saw some flashes of the offense being pretty good and productive in like the first half against the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers, a little bit against the Dolphins, but you know what? It wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. There were too many times where the offense wouldn't get it going, and they would fold many times throughout the entire game. You saw it hell, but this last game of the season against the Lions. There was no offense to speak of. There was nothing. The offense was constantly coming out, stinking up the plays, getting on to a terrible start. A well-coached football team doesn't come out playing like that. They just don't. All right? A guy like Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers' play this season has been very gut-wrenching. His accuracy has been all over the place. He will overthrow and miss guys down the field all the time. He will have a guy open underneath, but he'll defer to extend the play for a bigger play downfield, and eventually he ends up having to throw the ball away as a result. Aaron Rodgers has thrown the ball away for over 50 times this year. That's completely unheard of. Okay, the closest guy, I don't know, I forgot who it was, but I know that they've thrown the ball only half as much away as he has. I mean, a part of all the throwaways was him just looking for the big play, scrambling out of the pocket, and realizing there was just nothing there. And another reason was so he could run Mike McCarthy out of town. Because let's be real, that's what he was trying to do. Aaron Rodgers was undoubtedly trying to get Mike McCarthy fired. He completely quit on him, completely. And I know it might be some Packers fans out there who might not agree with that, but to me, that's what it will look like to me when you watch Aaron Rodgers and you watch his play on the football field. A lot of times he was just throwing the play away, giving up, and that's what he did. He quit on Mike McCarthy. He absolutely quit. Do I agree with that method? No. But that was obviously but it became more obvious as time went on. Aaron, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been as sharp as he was in recent years, and I believe undoubtedly he's definitely past his peak. He can still go out there and make plays. That I'm not questioning. But we've seen the peak of his career by now. Aaron Rodgers' prime, in my opinion, was from 2010 to 2016. That was his prime. That was his best years playing football. He's not going to be that same Rodgers anymore, and he's definitely on the decline. I've said many, many, many times that this organization has failed him in so many ways by not giving him better talent on this football team to get back to a Super Bowl. The Green Bay Packers organization has rolled Aaron Rodgers back for years, depending on him to be spectacular in every game and carry us into the playoffs. And now you see Rodgers can't do that anymore. He's not going to be able to be a one-man show and do it all on his own. He needs a complete football team around him more than ever, and they continually fail to do that. One of the biggest problems with Aaron as a passer this year has been his big play mentality. And it's always been there, but it's really come to light this year. And it's the fact, and the big play mentality is that him looking off the open guy. He'll have a guy come open underneath, or maybe on a couple of crossing routes, a little bit down, a little bit past the line of scrimmage or near the markers, and he'll completely look that guy off because he's looking for the big play. He's looking for the big play down the field for 20, 30-yard game or something like that. On one hand, that's not a bad thing. It's not a necessarily bad thing because, everybody loves spectacular plays. Everybody loves highlights. But on one hand, the other hand, that it can get you in trouble because while you're looking for that big play, it just puts more pressure on the offensive line to protect you longer, leading to holding calls, and eventually the pocket collapsing by the time you make a decision. It's also made worse when you don't have a more rhythm pass-based passing offense, with play calls designed to get the ball out of your quarterback's hands quickly and efficiently. A fragile quarterback like Rodgers shouldn't be he shouldn't be hopping around the pocket for 5 to 10 seconds by the time he throws the football. He needs to make 1 or 2 reads and release it. But because he plays sandlot football and he loves to scramble around looking for the big play, even on short yardage situation, it gets him into trouble. So that's Aaron Rodgers' play for you. That's what he's been this entire season. I still believe he's a great quarterback, a great talent. But he comes up short too often in clutch situation. And he does too much when he doesn't need to. There were so many times, so many plays this year where we only needed maybe 1 or 2 yards, and Rodgers is too busy looking downfield instead of just hitting and checking it down to a guy that's underneath that'll get you the yards to move the ball. Sometimes it's just best to just run the offense, get in rhythm. You don't always have to hit the big play. If it's there, then yes, take it. But if it's not there, there's nothing wrong with just hitting the open guy to pick up some yards after the catch. There's nothing wrong with that. So I just really think that's something that Aaron Rodgers really needs to change about how the way he plays. Otherwise, we're going to come into the next season pretty much playing the exact same way. And that's why whatever coach the Packers need to hire, the Packers decide to hire, they need to be on Aaron Rodgers' case about that and hold his play completely accountable. And in fairness to Aaron Rodgers, it's not like he's ever had great coaching around him to begin with. Like I said, I understand we accomplished a lot with Mike McCarthy as a coach. But when you're talking about coaches who can come in and mold quarterbacks to be able to do this and do that, that wasn't him. And Aaron Rodgers has never had that guy, like a Mike Holmgren did for Brett Favre, or hell, what Vince Lombardi did with Bart Starr. So that's Aaron Rodgers' play for you. He has to play better next year. Otherwise, the offense is still going to be in a slump. Now, as far as the offensive line, now let's talk about that. The O-line this season, for the most part, has not been that great. David Bakhtiari, by himself, has been pretty solid once again. He's a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, obviously. He gets completely snubbed every time the Pro Bowl's voting comes around, but it is what it is. He's our best guy on the offensive line, no question about it. Corey Lindsey has also been solid, being the only guy that was out there for every single snap. Kudos to him for staying healthy and being there. But other than that, the other guys, not so much. Brian Bulaga has struggled again this year, dealing with injuries as usual, and the tackle position has been awful. Guys were just in and out of the lineup constantly. There was a lot of injuries, and it caused a lot of problems in the pass protection, especially on third down. The Green Bay Packers have given up the most sacks on third down for the last 3 seasons, and that's just unheard. That's just ridiculous. Out of every team in the NFL, they've given up the most third down sacks the last 3 years. And it's really ridiculous, embarrassing to say that, but it's the truth. And I know I talk about Rodgers. I just talk about his problems and him holding on to football too long, which makes it tougher on them. But a lot of times when he goes down on third down sacks, a lot of times the pass rush is in his face within 2 seconds. And that's it. So if anything, the Packers need to address the offensive line, obviously. And I'm just completely done with Brian Bulaga because he's always injured, and the Packers have done an absolute piss poor job replacing T.J. Lane and Josh Sitton at the tackle position. They've done an absolutely terrible job replacing those guys, and you see it. So Aaron Rodgers has definitely been taking a beating behind the offensive line the last few seasons, and you see the results. I just talked about Aaron Rodgers' play declining. A lot of that also has to do with him not being well protected. All of it goes hand in hand. How long he holds onto the football, the offensive line breaking down and not protecting him enough. All those things play a factor. And Rodgers being a scrambling quarterback, he's gonna open up to be hit a lot more often than guys like Drew Brees or Tom Brady, who can sit back in the pocket, make their reads, and get the ball out fast. And to me, Rodgers has the ability to be that type of quarterback, but he just doesn't want to. Rodgers has his own way of playing the game. And because of that, it's led to him getting hurt a lot as he ended this season, obviously, getting a concussion. And with him scrambling out of the pocket and making plays on the run, it's fantastic, but then it leaves him open to get hit. So for me, not only does the Packers need to address the offensive line issues, but again, like I said with Rodgers, he needs to change his game and become more of a rhythm style passer. Now let's go ahead and move on. The running back position at tight ends. Now, it became clear to everyone that watches Packers games that Aaron Jones was definitely our starting running back. Jamal Williams shows flashes in some games, but he's inconsistent, and Ty Montgomery was a fail in itself. One of the biggest faults to Mike McCarthy's coaching this year was trying to do the whole 3 running back experiment, and it was dumb. The Packers are not a run-first football team, but when they did run the ball, especially to start the year, it wasn't bad. Aaron Jones was averaging over 6 yards per carry when he was in the lineup, but he would never get more than maybe 10 to 12 carries. And when Aaron Jones returned from his suspension, he quickly established himself as our running back. Okay, he established himself as an explosive downfield runner that doesn't go down easily. He's not a big dude, but he still doesn't go down very easily. He picks up some tough yardage. But Mike McCarthy did not want to invest in him solely. He wanted to share the rock with all 3 of those guys, and it was a dumb coaching move. Aaron Jones is our running back, and the Packers need to come into next season behind him 100%. Jamal Williams can help put him, be a nice third down back, but most of the load should definitely go to Aaron Jones. All right, so the Packers need to completely 100% get behind Aaron Jones and lean more on the run game, especially at the passing game and guys like Rodgers is struggling. Now, as far as the tight end position, the Packers have been god-awful in finding production in the tight end position for too long. One of the biggest expectations this year was the signing of Jimmy Graham. And all these failures with these guys need to stop, all right? Obviously, as Packers fans, we were looking forward to Jimmy Graham being a reliable target for Aaron Rodgers, and it just has not worked. Jimmy Graham is old, and he's past his prime, okay? He can no longer create the same kind of separation he was able to in New Orleans. And you can see it with the way he moves. The Packers barely targeted him in the red zone, and when he was open, he would just drop the pass. So this was just another bust year, just like it was with Martellus Bennett last year. And this is why the Packers should have kept a guy like Jared Cook around. With all the nonsense that's been going on in Oakland, especially with John Gruden and tanking and everything else, he still had an okay year. Jared Cook can still play. He showed that when he was here, obviously, in Green Bay for just that one season. Yeah, I know he had stretches where he was hurt, but when he was on the field and when he played, he produced. And he made and let's not forget the big catch he made on the sideline to send the Packers to the NFC title game. And the Packers foolishly did not re-sign him and let him walk. That was dumb. The Packers should have never did that. They should have kept him around. So here we are now. The production at tight end needs to be addressed once again. Even if they have to get young. Either they have to draft a guy, get some youth at that position, because guys like Jimmy Graham and Kendricks are not going to solve any problems at that position. They just aren't. I mean, how many times do we have to watch a game and see Kendricks drop a pass? Enough already. So I'm sick and tired of all the failures at the tight end position. I'm sick and tired of Packers not doing a great job and replacing a guy like Jermichael Finley, who's been gone for like the past 5 seasons. They've done a piss poor job once again finding production at the tight end, and Jimmy Graham has been an utter disappointment this entire season. Let's move on to the wide receivers. The last thing with the offense that I want to talk about, obviously, is the wide receiver position. First and foremost, I never agreed with releasing Jordy Nelson. I felt it should have been Randall Cobb. Jordy Nelson was always Aaron Rodgers' favorite target ever since we won the Super Bowl in 2011. When guys like Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, James Jones, when those guys started to leave, it was Jordy Nelson who emerged as Rodgers' best target in any situation. Third downs, the scramble drills, deep passes downfield in the red zone. Jordy was there. And he and Rodgers had a great chemistry with each other that you didn't see in Green Bay since about Brett Favre and Antonio Freeman. And the Packers, again, foolishly released him, even when he was willing to take a pay cut. Instead, they let Jordy go. They kept Randall Cobb, and what an awful season he has had. He had that great game against the Bears to start the season, and he quickly disappeared the rest of the season. And that's Cobb for you in a nutshell. He have a good game here and there, and then disappear for weeks upon end. Okay, I understand he was battling injuries, but look at the way he played before he got injured. Look at what he did when we traveled to Washington, down here in my hometown. He played like shit. So when Randall Cobb is on the field, what has he done outside of that game in Chicago? Nothing. So the Packers need to move on from Randall Cobb, man. He's not old. He's just 28 years old, but it's not working anymore. Randall Cobb is not the production. He's not producing the way he did when we first drafted him. I'm not trying to say Randall Cobb is garbage, but when you're talking about a guy that Rodgers needs to fucking step up next to Davante, he's not the guy. So, and speaking of Davante Adams, what a great year he had. He finished the season getting 111 catches for 1,386 yards, 13 touchdowns. He scored the most touchdowns out of any receiver for the past 3 seasons, and this season production earned him a Pro Bowl voting. He was only 3 catches away from breaking Sterling Sharp's record for the most receptions of a season by a Packer, but unfortunately a knee injury sidelined him the final game. Adams definitely established himself as a top 10 wide receiver in the league this year, and obviously being the number 1 option wide receiver for the Packers. Davante Adams, he's a guy that had a lot of struggles to start his career here. And even myself, I was shitting all over him, his performance throughout the 2015-2016 season, I believe. But he's put in the time. He's gotten better at his route running, making tough catches. He had some drops early in the season, but he's cleaned that up. He completely raped Darius Slay in coverage. And he's gone up against the most Pro Bowl cornerbacks this year. So I'm happy for Davante. He's a solid wide receiver now. Still doesn't have that breakaway speed after the catch, after catching the ball, but he's still solid at everything else. A top 10 wide receiver, in my opinion, without question. You can't deny his production and the numbers. The main problem this year has been with everyone else, however. Who was going to be that number 2 guy? Was it going to be Randall Cobb? Was it going to be maybe Geronimo Allison? Both of those guys eventually went down to injuries. I talked about Cobb, but look at Geronimo Allison. He was also another letdown this year. Not because he wasn't productive, he was. He made a lot of tough catches on third down. And after he sustained a concussion against the Bills, and injuring his groin or hamstring, whichever it was, he went on IR. So disappointing for Allison because he went down too soon. And because of the injuries to him and Cobb, it gave more playing time to the rookies, Marquez Valdes-Scantling and EQ St. Brown. Now, both of these guys, both of these boys, they have a lot of potential. They're big wide receivers. They can get better. They can only get better and get open downfield. Marquez Valdes-Scantling has great breakaway speed. EQ St. Brown has good hands to be a good target as well. However, you can argue they shouldn't have been playing as much as they were, if not for all those injuries. But on another hand, it's good because it gives them the experience. And I truly believe the Packers hired the right coaching staff. They'll design good plays that'll put these guys in good position and get these guys open downfield. And it can quickly turn this offense around. This wide receiver core is young and full of talent. Devontae Adams is only 26. And there's no other guy that's over 25 besides Randall Cobb. You gotta get the right coaching behind them, and someone has got to emerge as the number 2 guy next season. So if the Packers do that, and like I said, as far as the play for Aaron Rodgers gets better, as far as in the pocket, this offense can quickly turn around coming into next year. There's no reason why, with the talent that we have on offense, there's no reason why we should come into next year still struggling to find our identity, our identity on offense. So overall, the production for the Packers offense has been a completely disappointment, and that's why I believe that it was, at the end of the day, it was the right move to fire Mike McCarthy, because his play calling, his scheming wasn't working anymore. It just wasn't working, and Mike McCarthy is not the guy that's going to go out there and outcoach other coaches. He just isn't. He gets outcoached all the time, and you see it especially in these big play games. And at the end of the day, you just got to remember, it's a game. At the end of the day, that's what a lot of people forget about football. It's not about who has the best players or who's putting up the best stats. And that's why a guy like Andy Reid, one of the reasons why his teams fold in the playoffs, because then you got to start playing the game. And that's why guys like Bill Belichick will out-scheme you and beat you, because a lot of teams come in like, yeah, we got the best players and all this, and we do this, we should beat you. No, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter when you're talking about playing a football game. When you talk about having coaches who are gonna out-coach you, another coach, and do what they gotta do to call the right plays and great schemes and have your players ready to come out there to play. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted Mike McCarthy out of here. So the Packers have to get back to that. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to the defensive side of the ball. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the firing of Dom Capers was indeed something that needed to be done. When you talk about all the shortcomings this team has had, a lot of it had to do with the defensive side of the ball. How many times we had to watch the defense give up a big play that ended up giving a chance to the opposing team to win the game? These guys not being talented and coached well enough to make key stops to give the offense back the ball. It's happened so many times, so often, that Dom Capers obviously had to go. This year we saw some improvements as far as the production and coverage, especially in the secondary. You had a very talented rookie in Jaire Alexander, who no question was a standout this season. He had a really good season, made a lot of tackles on his own, broke up a lot of plays, made a lot of pass deflections. He quickly established himself as the best corner the Packers have in the secondary, which is a good thing for a young talent, but it's a bad in the sense that he's a rookie. And him being a rookie and still lacking experience will still eventually get him in trouble. And you've seen it throughout the season. And especially with the secondary in general, it being as young as we are, and the lack of experience from all these guys, and not having great play from any type of veterans out there. The veteran play in the secondary on top guys has not been production and has been a problem the entire season. The rest of the secondary hasn't been good. Clinton Dix, he was being utter trash in my opinion. Josh Jackson, another rookie that struggled a lot this year in coverage. Kevin King has been a complete disappointment. He's got good talent. The guy has good talent. He's got size and the physical capabilities to be a good physical corner. He's got the talent to be a good number 2 corner, but he can't stay healthy. And he failed once again to play in even 8 games this year. I'm sorry, but that's awful. When you talk about how young he is, and him struggling to be able to stay healthy and stay on the field, it's a problem. When you talk about why we drafted him in the first place and the potential this guy has, when he's been on the field, he hasn't been horrible, but he can't be relied upon to be out there. Tramon Williams, what can I say? They brought him back to improve the secondary, and for a while it worked, but he's old, and moving him to the safety position was the right move for the long term. But Tramon Williams at this stage in his career is not a guy that's going to go out there and give you great play at his age. Who's going to go out there and be a playmaker and get you stops and turnovers. The Packers need to address the safety position the most out of the secondary, because guys like Kentrell Brice has been utter garbage. Utter garbage. And the safety play has been garbage for a while now. With a guy like Earl Thomas out there, the Packers need to do what they gotta do to make a move at him before another team does. You know, the same way the Bears did with Khalil Mack, and how quickly signing Khalil Mack completely turned that Bears defense around. Because let's be real, without that pass rush, I believe the Bears defense can be picked apart. They got some good guys in secondary. I'm not saying they can't, but without that pass rush, you can pass and you can throw on those guys. So, but still, adding a guy like Khalil Mack and earning a pass rush completely turned that Bears defense around. And you see what wonders it's done for that football team. They're in the playoffs. We're not. We're at home. So the Packers need to stop being so fucking stubborn and make some moves. Like when bringing in, like what they did when they brought in Bashaud Breeland. Bashaud Breeland, he's a veteran guy. And when he's been on the field, he hasn't been horrible either. I think he can play, no question about it. And the Packers should re-sign him to keep some veteran play back there in the secondary. But knowing them, they most likely won't. So overall, it has been another bad year at the secondary position. And I know a lot of it had to do with injuries. Jaire, he battled some injuries this year. He had a couple of groin injuries that kept him out. Kevin King obviously was getting hurt a lot. So we were obviously missing a lot of guys in the secondary, and more kept going down to, and even Devon House, who even when Devon House was on the field, he was playing like shit. Kentrell Brice eventually got hurt at some point in time. So I understand that. I understand that a lot of it had to do with a lot of injuries. But so overall, if these guys can stay healthy, I believe that we had the talent to be a better secondary and to prove upon it than this year and last year. We got some good young guys like Jaire who are hungry and can go out there and play for you. But you need the other pieces, especially up front, which I'm about to get into. As far as the linebackers and defensive front, I truly believe that that's the biggest weakness in the Packers defense. You can argue that maybe it's still the secondary. You can still argue that. But you still also got to look at what's in front of them. The linebackers and the defensive front. The Packers, in my opinion, are just one pass rush away from this defense having the potential to be a top 10 defense in today's NFL. Even with all the love and praise high-power offenses get with a good pass rush, you can slow it down. Maybe not shut it down, but slow it down and be disruptive. The Packers haven't found that guy yet. Clay Matthews is done. And I've been done with that guy for a while now. He's old. He can't consistently rush the passer anymore. We all know about the roughing the passer calls he was facing early this season. And that was the biggest headlines Clay was making. Other than that, his play on the field has been far from impressive. It's definitely time to move on from him. Release or trade him for a draft pick, which would be a stretch. But that's what I would do. That's what I would do with Clay Matthews at this point in his career. Blake Martinez, no question, is our best linebacker, and he has been for a while. The guy is very underrated. He doesn't get enough respect, especially with all the attention on that bum Clay Matthews, and he should. He's a good interior linebacker. He's good at stopping guys on the second level. He struggles sometimes with coverage, but his production can't be ignored. He led the team in tackles once again this year. He deserves some better play around him from the other linebackers, especially on the outside. The pass rush is definitely one of the biggest weaknesses to the Packers defense. They cannot get to the passer. Even with guys like Kenny Clark and Mike Daniels on that line, that's not enough. It's not enough. Those guys are not pass rushers. And it has to be addressed, especially at the linebacker position, if the Packers remain in 3-4 scheme. We got to get some pass rushers to help out that young secondary. That you got to help. You got to do it. You got to help. You got to bring it in to help out that young secondary. That doesn't matter, because it just doesn't matter how much talent you have in the secondary. It doesn't matter how much talent you have back there if you can't rush the pass. You can't rush the quarterback. Any good to great quarterback will eat it up, as you saw with Matthew Stafford just down, and even with Sam Darnold. For the most part, Sam Darnold was out there looking like an MVP quarterback. Again, a lot of it had to do with injuries and how banged up we were. But at the end of the day, no pass rush, that's what a quarterback is going to do to you. And even when we called the blitz, those guys were not getting home. So the Packers have got to do something with the pass rush, man. They got to stop trying with Clay Matthews. Get rid of his ass. You got to let Nick Perry go. He can't stay healthy. And when he's on the field, he doesn't consistently rush the passer. Those guys are done. You got to move on from them. I know a guy like Reggie Gilbert, we had a lot of expectations for him, and hopefully that he would get even better and emerge as a pass rusher, but he hasn't. So Packers need to find that guy. They need to find that guy that can consistently get pressure and rush the quarterback. Because when you have that guy, it can cover up a lot of the efficiencies your defense has. Like I said again, look at the damn Chicago Bears. They went out and signed a guy, Khalil Mack, and look how much he's changed that fucking defense around. By just doing one job, and that's rushing the quarterback. So that's a problem. That's something the Packers need to address, and that's been one of the problems that the Packers have faced all season long. These quarterbacks are given way too much time to pocket to look off and be able to find their open guy. And that's one of the things that just will continue to hold the Packers defense back, is lacking playmakers. You know, the defensive front has guys like Kenny Clark that has definitely emerged. He's had a great season. You know, Mike Daniels, he's still inside and still produces. We brought in Muhammad Wilkerson for more bodies up front to stop the run, but he quickly went down to a season-ending injury thanks to Kendrail Brice, by the way. So the Packers struggled to stop the run majority of the season, even when those guys were healthy. And the play up front has got to improve and get better. You know, like I said, guys like Reggie Gilbert hasn't stepped up enough. We got blasted by injuries down the stretch from the defensive line. So again, these guys got to step up and play better. I like Clark. He's a good player. The other guys got to do a better job, especially when stopping the run. The linebackers as well. Kyler Fackrell has been our leading guy in sacks, but he's not that dominant. And a lot of times it's coverage sacks. He can't be relied upon solely to get to the passer. So we still have a lot of work to do to fix that defensive line. The Packers need to find a guy that can get to the passer. We could have had that if we made the move on Mac, but as usual, we don't make the moves. And the Packers want to prove next year they need to make a move. Stop going after old guys like Jimmy Graham who are old and washed up, and find a guy that can still play and make your football team better. Guys like that don't come around very often and are not always on the market in free agency for that long. But when they are, the Packers need to do what they gotta do and make the move, and should target and stop being cheap, spending all that money on an aging quarterback that can't stay healthy instead of signing game changers. And that's what will continue to hold us back, is lack of game changers, lack of playmakers, guys who are going to step up, guys who can go out there and step up in big games and make a big play that'll ultimately win us the football game. We don't have that, and I'm not saying we don't have talent. We do on both sides, but still, you don't have those playmakers. That's what we're missing. And with a young defense like this, we can be better, and we have the potential to be a top 10 defense if we can get some big bodies up front and get some guys that can get to the quarterback. You got to let guys like Perry and Matthews go. And the same thing that goes with secondary. Kendrail Brice sucks. These things have to be addressed. Trading HaHa Clinton-Dix was a good move. Jamal Williams moving to the position at safety is not the answer in the long run. So overall, the defense still has a long way to go. So, like I said, I warned you guys at the beginning that this was going to be a long video. I'm sorry, but this was a lot of stuff I need to talk about. You know, and it's just, to come to conclusion is that at the end of the day, the Packers are just not a good football team. They are not well coached. You've seen it when McCarthy was here. You saw it last year with Aaron Rodgers going down and all the problems that were exploded. This team throughout the season failed to win big games against good teams, losing a lot of close ones. Rodgers and the offense stumbling and the play calling being horrible and playing bad on the road and losing their last 2 or 3 games at home. Coming into next season, the play calling needs to change. The play calling needs to improve. Aaron Rodgers needs to change how he plays. We need a coach that'll hold him accountable. We need calls that'll turn this passing offense more rhythm-based. Commit to Aaron Jones and run the football more. Find some youth at tight end. Get a pass rushing defense. Play better at safety. If they do that, the Packers can turn it around. There's no excuse to come in next year still struggling at these problems. There's no excuse. Especially when you have a guy like Rodgers under center. There's no excuse to come into next season struggling to get an offense going, struggling to find our identity. There's no excuse. A well-coached football team would not play the way we have played this entire season. And that's why this season has been an utter disappointment. and why the Packers finished 6-9-1 and ended up getting fucking shut out at home this previous game. It's embarrassing and it's pathetic. Because regardless of what other fans of teams might say, regardless of how they might throw it in our faces, that we've had guys like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers as quarterbacks, how many championships has that won us? Guys like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, especially Aaron Rodgers, have been wasted here in Green Bay. They have been wasted. If you have any type of sense and know anything about the game of football, you would know that. So that's just overall my thoughts on the way the Packers 2018 season. It's obviously been an utter disappointment, missing the playoffs again, having to watch a team like the fucking Bears, the fucking Teddy Bears, be good and be 12-4 going into the fucking playoffs. But it is what it is. If the Packers would have handled business, if we would have been coached better, a lot of things probably would have been different. All the struggles, when you talk about all the struggling on the road to win road games, all the struggles to win close games against better teams. Packers just are not a good football team. So it's been utterly depressing watching these guys play all throughout the season. So my last closing moments is this. Like I said, coming to next year, I'm still gonna try to hold out for a little bit of optimism, because I really believe that the Packers can just find the right guy. The right guy at head coach, and bring in the right guys as offensive coordinators to call plays. That offense can quickly turn it around and be one of the better offenses in the league. And the defense again has just needs and it's just one pass rush away for being a potential top 10 defense. The talent is there. Coach them, and we'll see what happens. So that's it. Go Packers.